These are the crashes that shocked the world. Some ended careers, some changed safety forever. I'm not here to sensationalize what happened, who survived, what we learned, how the sport was reshaped by moments that unfolded in split seconds. This video dives into 8 of the most terrifying F1 incidents. We will stick to facts, survivor accounts, safety changes that followed. Over the next 10 minutes, you'll see raw footage, medical timelines, engineering responses that turn tragedy into progress. We'll cover Imola 1994, Suzuka 2014, Bahrain 2020, Montreal 2007, Hungary 2009, wheel flying incidents, Montoya's Australian GP pileup, classic multi-car crashes that forced rulebooks to change. Subtitles are available. Content warning: some crash footage is graphic. Viewer discretion is advised. Watch with me, learn with me. Feel the weight of each story. These moments didn't just shock fans, teams, tracks, governing bodies. This is a deeply human look at danger, response, the relentless push for safety in the world's fastest racing series. We open with Imola, May 1st, 1994, a day that has haunted Formula One for decades. Ayrton Senna was on lap 7. His Williams left the racing line at Tamburello at high speed and struck the concrete wall. Initial seconds show the car hitting the barrier with little visible steering correction. The impact was brutal. Medical teams reached Senna quickly. The severity of his injuries was immediately clear. Cameras and telemetry later suggested a failure. Suspension failure suspected. Steering failure suspected. Investigators pieced together telemetry, debris patterns, onboard damage. Cockpit intrusion was severe. Head injuries were catastrophic. Official inquiries examined car design, track safety, circuit layout. Tamburello runoff became central. Imola's walls and barriers were criticized for not dissipating energy. That criticism led to changes across the calendar. Gravel traps were redesigned. Tech Pro barriers were introduced. Safer barriers gained attention. Circuits prioritized runoff areas and impact-absorbing solutions. Helmets were reevaluated. Head restraints were reevaluated. Cockpit integrity standards were reevaluated. Teams adjusted chassis and suspension standards. They studied how impacts transmit forces to the cockpit. The FIA established new crash testing and certification. Survival cells were mandated to improve. Front and side structures were strengthened. Drivers demanded change. Teams poured resources into safety research. The sport entered an era where fatal accidents became unacceptable and preventable. Senna's loss forced F1 to accept responsibility. Years later, Imola 94 still influences regulations, medical protocols, circuit design. Suzuka, October 5, 2014. Heavy rain, a stranded tractor recovery vehicle, and a driver fighting in fading light. The scene was a nightmare of conditions and timing. Jules Bianchi lost control at the Dunlop curve, slid off, and collided with the rear of a recovery vehicle attending to another crashed car. The sequence is stark: poor visibility, standing water, and a car moving at speed into an obstructing vehicle, all while marshals and recovery crews were working nearby. The impact imparted severe head trauma, and Bianchi was airlifted to a hospital where he underwent surgery and was placed in a coma. Investigations cited weather, marshal procedures, and heavy machinery on track. The legacy was sweeping. The virtual safety car system was introduced and refined. Recovery procedures were updated, ensuring safer use of recovery vehicles. Bahrain, November 29, 2020. Romain Grosjean's car pierced the Armco barrier at high speed and erupted into flame, splitting the monocoque, but miraculously preserving a survival cell around the driver. The visuals are terrifying. A fireball, a car halved, and a driver escaping through flames. The sequence started with contact on lap 1 that sent Grosjean into the barrier. The car disintegrated at the point of impact, but the survival cell held together, allowing Grosjean to escape with burns to his hands and ankles. The timing of rescue teams and his quick self-exit was critical. The Halo device played a crucial role, deflecting debris and maintaining structural integrity above the cockpit. It didn't stop the barrier penetration, but helped protect Grosjean's head amid the chaos. The protective survival cell proved the value of recent safety engineering. Fire-resistant clothing, modern helmets, immediate intervention from marshals and medical crews. He later credited the Halo and medics for saving his life, and his survival became a case study in safety. Investigations into barrier types, construction, and controlled disintegration reaffirmed how engineering saves lives. Chapter 4. Montreal, June 10, 2007. Robert Kubica took a terrifying airborne impact into the barriers at high speed after contact with another car sent him into a series of flips. The crash looked catastrophic. A car launched, nose first into a narrow concrete wall, and telemetry showed massive deceleration. Kubica's injuries were severe. A fractured leg among other trauma, and the race was red-flagged as teams and medical staff rushed to attend. Investigators focused on wheel-to-wheel contact, the aerodynamics that can lift a car, and where forces transmit to the survival cell. The crash raised questions about wheel tethers and front wing and nose cone designs. Intensive treatment, surgeries, and rehabilitation followed. He returned to competition later, though the incident left physical and psychological marks. It accelerated attention to tethers, underbody aero, and extraction readiness. Chapter 5. Budapest, July 25, 2009. Felipe Massa was on a flying lap in qualifying when a suspension failure sent a spring from another car into his helmet at cockpit level. The impact knocked him out on the spot, caused serious head injuries including a skull fracture. He recovered after surgery, but the incident exposed a terrifying vulnerability: debris entering the open cockpit. Teams prioritized better retention hardware, rigorous inspections, and stronger wheel tethers. Massa's comeback was brave. He returned the next season and continued his career, reigniting debate on enclosing or protecting cockpits and the trade-offs with tradition and visibility. Chapter 6. Flying wheels and debris have been recurring horror stories in F1 history. Gerhard Berger surviving a wheel strike, and other near misses showing how tiny failures cause massive consequences. It's not just big crashes. Lost components become lethal projectiles. A wheel's weight and velocity can be potentially fatal. The cockpit is an exposed target. Wheel tethers, tougher tests, pit safety protocols, and mandatory crew PPE reduced risks. The FIA tightened standards, enforced penalties, and hubs and attachments were redesigned. Incremental changes reduced flying wheel incidents, though early cases still drive safety culture. Chapter 7. Albert Park, March 4, 2001. The start is chaos. Multiple cars jockeying, wet patches, and a chain reaction pileup. Montoya was in the mix among many in a multi-car incident. At crowded starts, a single misjudgment can cascade into dozens of contacts and airborne moments. Response protocols were tested, multiple damaged cars and potential fuel spills. Investigations drove changes, grid spacing, start-type choices, and clearer flagging when sightlines are poor. Stricter enforcement and better visibility for pole improved margins. Robust fuel systems, quick deploy extraction, and coordinated fire teams became focal. The medical chain of survival was refined. Chapter 8. In the 1970s and 80s, multi-car pileups were alarmingly common. Tighter grids and primitive barriers. Long streaks of cars against Armco, wheels strewn across the track, drivers exposed. Reforms followed. Better circuit design, minimum distances, full-body suits, modern helmets, and harness systems. Runoffs widened, barriers absorbed more energy, corners gained escape routes.